Hello everyone, welcome to another Naraka Bladepoint video. This is OSK, and today we're going to be doing another tier list. This time we'll be covering all the characters for the solo mode here after Zipping Ying has been in the game for a while. This will pretty much cover all of Season 5, the Dawn season. So if you've watched my previous tier list video, this will be an updated version of that. I believe that video is about 2 or 3 months old. It's a little bit outdated since we do have a new character, and some changes have been made to some especially as it affects solos. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. This will just be my 100% opinion. If you disagree with it, let me know down in the comments and let me know why you disagree. We can start a discussion about this. And by the time this video goes up, I'll actually be out of the country probably. So you'll probably see me after I get back in real time. And without further ado, I know I said that twice. Let's go ahead and get into your list. Starting with Justina Gu. I do believe she's moved down quite a little bit. A tier would be probably able to be picked in solos and still be viable, but not one of the strongest. Justina still does very well into a lot of engagements. Her ultimate definitely allows you a free escape still in most cases, especially if you play it well. There is a scenario where players can still grapple you in the middle of escaping, so it's not like a for sure thing. I would say probably about 70% of the time you can get out of it, depending on the corners, depending on the terrain. And also her skills, her F1 and F2, still pretty dominant as far as avoiding damage. F1 obviously the armor restore, F2 the ability to interrupt attacks. So that is very nice for her. Unfortunately, she does get outclassed by some other characters that will be higher than her on this tier list. Before I had her in S tier, and I believe she solidly dropped to A, as I don't see her nearly as much, especially in tournament play. So A tier she'll belong. Kurumi is still in D tier. There's not really a whole lot of changes in terms of solo mode that has really changed her viability. She still is restricted to her own little sacred circle, I believe it's called. Or Guardian Circle, I'm not really sure what the name is. But anyway, her ultimate gives her just this brief little area. If it's in an enclosed space, it can be really strong, but most of the time you're not in an enclosed space. So while it can be used in Final Circle, the challenge is getting there, and I don't believe her ultimate allows her to do that. And her skill is a little bit lackluster. You're not able to act out of it. It's pretty much just a gimmick, so D tier she goes. Unfortunately, still no love for me. Matari is going to be on the same playing level as Justina. This is about the same placement as I had for her, you know, minus a tier. I do believe that she probably, I want to put her higher, but I think she's honestly about as equal to Justina as you can get, because while her silent flutter, while her skill allows her to still get out of certain situations in a very effective way, they do not allow you to act while you're under attack. So if you are caught in a combo, unfortunately, you're going to have to wait for either someone to drop the combo or for it to be completed before you're able to act, and this is a very big detriment to Matari's play. Thankfully, her ultimate does give her a saving grace in the fact that it allows you to chase enemies a lot. So if you do gain the upper hand in a fight, 9 times out of 10, you'll be able to activate Matari's ultimate and finish it out no problem, unless the opponent happens to be some other characters that we'll have here on the tier list. But she does chase very well. She is full offensive whenever you need her to be, so that's why she's an A tier and not any lower, but I don't think she's on the higher echelon as far as solo play goes. So A tier she'll belong. Takeda, still the top of the order in A tier, I do believe. Still the strongest 1v1 champion. He has infinites. He can interrupt people out of attacks up to 3 times if he uses V1. V3 is not really used a whole lot. V2 can be dodged out of, but that V1 is absolutely vicious. It can get you out of counters. It can get you out of combos. It can get you out of a lot of things. Also, his F3 skill, like I said before in his little skill review whenever it came out, still very, very strong. I know a lot of people use it as golden focus interrupts, especially with the damage reduction. I'm seeing a lot more of that in more servers as opposed to the F2. F2 is still really strong in terms of advantage state, because you can still extend combos and all that, but together with his F3 and his F1 especially, I think that he is still the strongest 1v1 champion. Not quite S tier, I don't think. He's not what I would call a quote-unquote hyper meta pick or anything like that, but I do believe that he's stronger than the 2 below him, so we're going to leave him there. Same thing with Tarka. I think he's just a step below. I would say he's a step below Takeda here. In fact, probably if I had to guess, Tarka, He's just a step below. I would say probably in most scenarios, Tarka is below the two above him here, Justina and Matari, but he's still really strong. His F skill, whenever used correctly, can lead into a lot of things. His ultimate especially allows you an iframe into an infinite, and that infinite is the whole reason why he's so high up here. That, and he can dash a whole lot out of his ultimate, which allows for a lot of combo strings that you normally can't get with any other character, meaning that there's a lot of damage, and it still allows you to flee, albeit it might not be the strongest fleeing ability in the game, but it's still okay. Like, you can get out of most third-party situations if you ultimate and get out of it. Also, it allows you to use it while being under attack, so that's also another plus. But I think low A tier is still where he belongs here. Temulch actually got a bit of a buff. I would actually put him, if you play your cards right, I believe that he could be just below Tarka. I think he's moved up a tier since the last time I spoke about him. He was in B tier. I think I'll move him up to low A. His ability to instantly drain your stamina is a very big boon. That and the ability to recharge your wisps whenever he activates his ultimate is very, very strong. There's also some combos that players have picked up where you can actually, maybe not infinite, but you can string together a bunch of hits if you happen to win the neutral game with Temulch. So the ability to land that much damage does give him a spot above B tier. I would say he's barely viable. I wouldn't say that he is trash or anything like that, or super viable, but he's like right on the borderline there. So I think low A is probably where he'll go. He feels a bit like Tarka, albeit a little bit weaker, in my opinion. Tianhai hasn't really changed that much in solos. His Vajra form's very exploitable. Everybody knows to shoot it and aim for the weak spot. His bell's very lackluster. Not really a whole lot doing in the solo mode, so down to C tier he'll go. Probably the most use you'll see out of his Vajra form is gaining the health back that he would have lost otherwise, but other than that, this is very strictly a trios type of character, and I think that's where he's going to shine still. Valda has actually picked up steam quite a bit. I would say Valda's probably just below Tarka nowadays. Her F1, while it's not the most viable thing in the world, if you do happen to win the neutral game, it's very similar to Temulch here. If you win the neutral game, Valda can do some nasty stuff, especially with these new combos that I'm seeing off of Valda Bubble into Greatsword. That's a lot of damage. It's at least half health gone if they manage to hit you in a bubble, and the bubble is very, very good now. You can't focus out of it. You can dodge it, but it can interrupt most actions. So if you get caught in a bubble, if Valda throws out her bubble and you're not ready for it, then you're kind of going to just eat a lot of free damage, and that alone will bring her up here. Also, her ultimate, most of the time, unless you're just a god and you know exactly what you're doing, Valda's ultimate is pretty much half a health bar guaranteed damage in V1. V2 is not really used a whole lot more. That can be used off of a reset, but V1 is the one that I see the most of. V3, I see people run it. I don't see them run it very well, so I don't think it's really worth that much of a mention, but between V1 and F1, she's pretty reliable damage, I would say. Again, not the most viable, probably right in the realm of Temulch's. Now, Viper got a bit of a buff. She can use her F1 while under attack, and her V3 also allows her 40% damage reduction now, which is pretty good. That being said, I don't think that she's like godlike or anything like that. If anything, I would call her a gimp character, because she can still use, I believe it's her F2 that allows the silence. She can use that to mitigate a lot of a lot of the abilities that the other characters have. In fact, she eliminates all the abilities because it's a silence, but you know what I mean. In any case, Viper, if she gets an advantage on you, you're pretty much guaranteed dead for the most part. Well, maybe not guaranteed, but like 80% of the time, you're probably dead if she gets an advantage on you. That being said, if she is behind, she's more than likely going to stay behind unless you do something wrong and get hit by one of her ultimates that stun you. So it's a very volatile kind of character. In solo play, volatile isn't really the best. It's not really the best strategy to go with. You're going for more consistency than anything else, and Viper, I feel like, is not really all that consistent. So I think she's solidly in B. B for barely viable, I guess you could say. But I do believe that she's a step below all of the other picks. I was a little bit more excited with her whenever the patch came out that she was able to use her F1 while under attack, but I think the F2 is still better. And V3, while the damage reduction is a lot better, players are still doing a good job of just fleeing from that, and really there's not a whole lot to be done about it. So Unfortunately, I'll keep her in B. Wuchen, I would say probably fits somewhere in here-ish. He does have an unrivaled ability to flee with his portals, with his ultimate, which is very nice. It offers a free reset, and also you kind of dictate the pace of whenever you want to re-engage a fight to a large extent. His F abilities also allow him to heal shields and get out of certain attacks, which is very nice. Also a tiny little revive that he can get off of them. That being said, I don't think that he's changed all that much since the last time I ranked the tier list. So in terms of character placement, this is about right, I believe, where I would put him. He might be like right below or right above Takeda. They're almost on the same level for different reasons. I do believe that he's probably, it's really tough to label them like in order. I would say probably this is about right. I would say probably Takeda, then Justina, then Wuchen, then Matari. This is probably about right. And just to I would say reiterate, but I haven't said it yet. These tiers are not like a night and day thing, other than probably from B to C is probably where the biggest gap is. But anything B and above, I mean, you're going to see enough of in solo play to where like all these characters you can win with, okay? It's not like if you pick a B tier champion, you're going to just auto lose. Like there's a lot of skill, there's a lot of nuance that goes into each of these matchups. These are just what I see more of in my games, and also the consistency that you can get from each character, if that makes any sense. So if anything, this is a ranking of consistency, not necessarily can you win at all with these characters. So let's, aside from like Tianhai and Kurumi as it stands right now, and we'll go into Yueshan here, I suppose, you're probably okay playing these in solos. So don't get too caught up with that in the comments there. Yueshan, I'll go ahead and just skip Yoto for right now. Yueshan, still in C tier, right above Tianhai. He's very much in the same boat as far as you can use his ultimate to gain his health back. The only benefit I would say he has over Tianhai is that you can potentially land a bit more damage with Yueshan with his movement than anything else. He's harder to flee from. That being said, I say he's harder to flee from. That doesn't mean he's difficult to flee from. If you have a tree nearby, you're probably fine. But his abilities, his charging abilities and his terror debuff do give him an edge over Tianhai. Other than that, he's not very viable in solo, so we're going to keep him in high C tier. Still, you know, the gap between B and C is still pretty large, but this is about where he goes, right above Tianhai. Unfortunately, the Transformers don't really have a whole lot of love in solos. All right, now going on for S tier. I am going to put Yoto in S tier. I still think that she is one of the strongest, if not the strongest character in the entire game. She did receive a nerf on her F3, which is very much well-deserved. Okay, let's get that right. F3 nerf from 5 seconds to 3.5 seconds was very much deserved. You can only get, I believe it's one guaranteed health, one guaranteed pot or armor shard or armor powder, I believe it's called. You can only get one guaranteed off of that now. F2 and F1 still a little bit lackluster. I see more of F1 than F2. F2 I see barely any of. Most people run F3. I think once people start using F3 a bit more offensively, you'll start to see me move Yoto just a little bit higher, and she's already pretty high. Now her ultimate is an automatic respect game. It is pretty much, I wouldn't call it a rhythm game. It's more of a reaction test. If you can react to her slashes and tap dodge out of the way, then her ultimate means nothing, okay? If you do not play the tap dodge game right, then she will chunk you for so much health it's not even funny, and she will also heal off of it as well. And V3 is the one I'm most talking about here. I have been on both sides of this. I have both dodged Yoto ults, and I have both and I've been dodged when playing Yoto. So I know both sides of this coin. If you get the right side of the coin, she is absolutely devastating. If you get the wrong side, then she's a little bit weaker than what I would like her to be. So I believe with the balance change, it got her into a very good place. She is, I would say, in low S tier as of right now. So yeah, I believe that's about right. If you disagree with me, comment below, but also know that I think you're wrong. Okay. And now we have Zipping Ying. You know where she's going. She's best character in the game right now for solos. Her F2 ability is the entire reason why. She can flee any fight that she wants to, just about, unless your opponent has like 13 grapples that they just want to waste on you. In fact, I've seen it to where most players will just opt to not chase the Zipping Ying because it's just a grapple sink. That's all it is. Her F2 ability is one of the most broken things in the game right now. You can interrupt, or you can just completely ignore basic attacks for as long as the inspiration shield is up, which is about 12 seconds. It's a cooldown of 25 seconds, and it recharges while you have the inspiration shield up. So half the time you're inspiration shielded unless you're damaged out of it, and the other half of the time you're just fleeing around, running around until you get the inspiration shield back up. And it's this entire cat and mouse game. You have a bit of a small window to catch Zipping Ying out, and most of the good ones you will not get a hold of. So Zipping Ying, as far as being able to flee and also put a little bit of extra pressure without having to worry about the neutral game as much, absolutely S tier. She can also hit Yoto out of her skill. That's another thing I forgot to mention for Yoto. If you use grapples and you instead of like trying to attack Yoto where you clang off of the F3, you can also just let yourself hit her with the grapple or stun her in any single way, and then the F3 means nothing. So that's another reason why she's below Zipping Ying. But anyway, back to Zipping. Her V1 ability is by far the best one in solos. You can activate it to gain golden focus and then have this insane 20% heal off of it, which can pair into F2's heal or F1 if you're a crazy person and decide to run F1. And it also pairs into any heals that you go for in terms of like your armor powders or your Vitalia, anything like that. And so Zipping Ying all around, best survivability in the game, the most annoying mechanic in the game with her F2, and for good reason. There's a reason why you see 20 Zipping Yings in some of these tournament gameplays, because she is just that good to secure yourself a higher placement in these lobbies. I kid you not, I have seen 2 Zipping Yings go after it in the final circle, gold daggers, gold everything, and the fight lasted 3 minutes because they just kept getting inspiration shields, fleeing from each other. They got their ultimates up twice. By the way, her ultimate can be activated at 70%, which is insane. And if you opt to not take that option, she has a free revive off of it. I think activating it early is still the stronger option. But anyway, absolutely crazy character. If you've played Naraka in solos, you know why. I don't think I need to elaborate further. This is going to be the definitive tier list for solo characters. And that's going to do it for the video, guys. If you enjoyed, please be sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe for more. Again, I'm away from my keyboard, so this will be going up while I can't make videos, but I'll still try to look at the comments and communicate with you guys. If you disagree, let me know in the comments. And yeah, other than that, share this video if you think it's worthy of a share. And I think what I'm going to end up doing with these tier lists, I don't want to have a dedicated, like, in-depth solo character tier list, I don't believe anymore. That only comes up like every 3 or 4 months because it's very quickly invalidated by any sort of patches. So I think what I want to do is, instead of doing the patch notes that I normally do, where I just basically read them to you, I think I want to elaborate on characters more on a bi-weekly basis, like have tier lists there and only list very important changes. It's not like every change that I make to the tier list will be mentioned, but you know, with character balancing and the more things that we learn about each character, I think that's a better way of doing it. So like, instead of having a patch notes breakdown, we'll have like a patch notes section of the character balancing up front, I believe, and we'll get into like the more nitty-gritty event type stuff later on in that same video. And I think what I want to end up doing is I want to do a solo tier list and then a duo, or no, I'll do a solo, then trios, then duos, because not as many people play duos, and solos and trios are like the main modes. So I think that's what I'm going to end up doing. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. Again, normally when I do patch notes, bi-weekly tier list where I have every character ranked, at least in my opinion. And I like to think that I'm right. Maybe I'm wrong. It's all my opinion at the end of the day. But yeah, let me know what you think down in the comments. And I think that's going to do it for the video. If you've enjoyed watching this, like I said, like, subscribe, do all that sort of stuff. Again, I'm probably out of the country by the time this goes up. I am getting married and probably be on my honeymoon. So if I don't get to you, you know where I am. So thanks again, guys, for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.
I will rise 1,000 times. I fall and I rise from ashes. This time I'll come back stronger. I know life is getting harder. Not like I will choose another. My tears with healing powers. Just one drop to recover. Can't stop me cause I'm the phoenix.